The Green Crow Inn, a novel by Derek A. Kamal, read by Kelman Friedman. Chapter 2. Concerning the Inn itself. North and west of the capitals, in the political no-man's land between that domain and the nation of the Gindi, are numerous villages and hamlets caught in the anarchy. They are called, by some amalgamation of local tongues, shulk towns, and they are mostly autarkic. Some use rotating confabs when the need for representation arises, but mostly these towns get on by work from traders, local commerce, and agriculture, and they manage well enough. One such shulk town is called Newari. It can be found at the bottom of a broad and terribly forested hill called Tila Hill, by those who care. I have passed through that forest and do not recommend it. A presence hovers above it and around it. Anyways, the placement of Newari is at once foolishly fortuitous. The sharp incline of the western side of the hill can mean regular flooding when it rains, and it does. So many dwellings are built on little stilts that mostly tide them over when the tiding can be done. The hill is also the source of their meager fortune, for the hill and its forest draw loggers from many nearby steadings, and has for generations. This forestry begat trade, trade a road lodgers and workers, and so on until the little shulk town sprouted up out of the ground some generations ago. Tila Hill is part of a broader range of similar hills that has no name, or at least no names that are for the finding on any map in any libraries in the capitals. No dwarf scholar or keeper claims any knowledge of that range either, nor any other landmark in that sparsely inhabited dead space. If there is a name, it is kept solely by the locals. But it must be old and long populated, and the folk there must know a thing or two about forestry, as the woods show no sign of diminishing, that the forest has its own fell power to keep itself dense and dark. There is only Newari, its people, its seasonal workers, who emerge from the hills during logging season and recede as quietly as they came, and its inn. Now the inn is, of course, a curious development among all those civilized beings of the continent, and perhaps beyond it. No expedition has returned from beyond the break in generations, so if there are pubs that way, no one knows about them. But I digress. Inn, hus, sarai, wakea, hostel. We, all of us, may call it by different names, but an inn is an inn, just as a tavern is a tavern. The Green Crow is the principal inn and business of Newari, for it is not merely an alehouse with rooms on top. It is a trade post, a parcelry, and a general store. It's a family gathering place, a romantic evening away, the only performance hall in town, the only lecture hall in town, the only place for a decent glass and a warm meal. It is a home in the dearest sense of the word. The Green Crow Inn is staffed by a magnificent but skeletal crew of 4. First is Sumi Kind, who most describe as nimble, taut, unpleasantly cheerful, and dwarvish. She is the barback, but in title only, for Sumi is also room service and entertainer, known to keep even a full common room laughing for a full 20 minutes. 25 if engaged parties have had a few. Her good humour is unquenchable, as is her taste for black wine and arrock pie. She hails, apparently, from some dwarf settlement or other far to the south, which somewhat explains her curious manner of speech. Next is Furrier, tall, lanky, off-putting, trollish. Do not let his name fool you, for this fellow, all brownish-green 6.5 feet of him, could not catch any woodland beast should his life depend on it. It seems the more cultured trolls of today merely have odd naming customs. Furrier would better be called cellarer, because that's what he is. He is the domain of deliveries, of stock and inventory, and lifting most anything as needs lifting. Beneath his small, mismatched eyes sits a mind full of numbers, however, and those numbers equate to not only an unerring account of every ingredient in the Green Crow, but also an exacting application of those ingredients to every stew, pie, and ale produced at the Green Crow. While Calca is not in the kitchen, Furrier is there. Who is Calca? Why, she is the innkeeper, the Reverend Mother of Hospitality. Nearly as tall as Furrier, not half as cheerful as Sumi, Calca runs the Green Crow with both austerity and agonizing generosity. Hers is the realm of barkeep, hotelier, town listener, postmaster, and head chef. Never married, without children, and nearing her 50th year? This was, and remains, difficult to determine, as I'd had little interaction with the Gindi and absolutely no courage to ask her age myself. Calca's hair is still mostly black as night, with only a few strands of grey to hint at her experience. Brown-complected, like most of her people, she has deep blue eyes with many years of practiced deflection about them. Few know her history with the Green Crow, save that she has run it since she was as joyous and youthful as Sumi kind. And, despite her stern demeanour, she took on a sprightly newcomer to round out her employ. That newcomer was, naturally, myself. "Gilrad's run off," she said to me. "Can you clean the stables?" "Yes," I nodded, though I'd only ever ridden horses and not taken care of them. "Can you shoe a horse?" "Yes," I said, this time with even more confidence. After a pause, the innkeeper spoke again. "Fine, you're hired, on a temporary basis." "Isn't all of life but one temporary basis?" I mused, extending my hand for her to shake. An unpleasant look took Calca's face, as if she'd caught wind of some newly soured milk. She rose, turned out of her office, and walked downstairs into the quiet common room. I folded my hand and lowered it. Ah, well, the niceties of the capitals are not for everyone. And since that fateful day, all of one day ago, I have been in the employ of the Green Crow. Ivor the minstrel, thieving dwarves, flying cheese, and quiet strangers in flashy cloaks that I seem unable to stop thinking about are all but a day's work for us. When first I clapped eyes on the Green Crow, I thought it a bountiful structure, a bastard child of its realm, for it kept the smooth stone pillars and archways of the Gindi people, and yet upon that hard structure rested a mantle of thatch more befitting the people of the coast. The walls between the stone pillars at each corner are of wood painted a grey-green colour. She is of 3 stories and 2 wings, a veritable palace to the rustics of a shulk town. The stone path leading one from the highway to the inn ends at steps to broad green doors, all of teak and especially carved by dwarves, at least as Sumi tells it. Flanking the circular window, that being inserted in the door at man-height, are a pair of black birds, wings aloft and beaks pointed at the viewer. Below that, among scattered decorations, is a carved pair of wine glasses set in such a way that stand prepared should the crows opt to land on their brim. This door, the main door, framed by a grey stone arch, leads one to what would be the western wing of the inn. To your left is a wide porch, again made of stone arches, and again atop wooden stilts, keeping it a few feet off the ground. But rather than thatch, the open-air seats are protected by tarpaulin of some rich green cloth matching the green of the doors. By all appearances they seem of cotton, hardly enough to save anything from the elements, but kept in that simple weave as some kind of craft, or magic, one can never truly tell these days, making them as durable as a rock. Through the rousing green door is the common room, the tavern, where all and sundry come to quench their thirst and catch up on the local slander. The gatherings are often merry and not quarrelsome. It seems the people of this area, being a kind of border within borders, discovered it was best to look out for one another and not to fight. And this is well, for the world outside is often full of restive and annoying things. One can hardly go anywhere on the continent without hearing of the troubles facing the dwarves of the Holmes recently. So, many a night passes in the common area of the Green Crow without incident. Folks, mostly men, with a few dwarves and the occasional troll, enter, sit, sup their ales, and nibble their dainties. More often than not, it is quiet, and I have to think Calca wants to keep it that way. Once inside, the first thing one notices is the high, vaulted ceiling with its exposed beams. They crisscross here and there to excellent effect. The flagstones you'd trod upon outside now come closer together and shine a rare shine. Above that is row upon row of circular tables surrounded by chairs. Table and chair are each made of different wood of varying hues. One might find this offensive to the eye, but none have complained thus far. Not even yours truly, though I suppose interior design was never a strong suit of mine. Adorning the walls are a true museum of visual arts, Fine paintings from the coast, carvings atop shelves shaped by dwarves of the north or perhaps men of the capitals. Ashamedly, there are some tasteless tavern signs about living, laughing, and loving. But I mean to see them disposed of. Heraldry made by southern dwarves is also there. These mostly hang from the high rafters, drawing the eye upwards to the true three-story grandeur of the common room and the upper balcony, that being rather small with only 3 tables, reachable by a loathsome and steep set of stairs. Follow the walls and rows of tables back, and you'll find to your left the door to the aforementioned porch, to your right an archway with another portal leading to the courtyard, and straight ahead, unmistakable, is the very nerve centre, the bar. The shine of this bar is truly dazzling. I have not witnessed it for myself as of yet, but Calca must polish the rich brown wood every morning. Behind it is the ever-important back bar, topped with all manner of keg, bottle, glass, mug, chalice, and aught. A fine stack of games from across the continent, those tabletop contests loved by troll or man or dwarf, stands in the left corner as representative of the goodwill of all upright folk. Both bar and back span from that far left corner clear across to the end of the common room, stopping only to allow egress. Thereafter is the portal to the kitchen in the back. Our kitchen is not much to behold, containing the simple oddments required for beer and board. There are shelves covered in whatever vegetables will keep in the open, a central work table for preparations, an obnoxiously large iron range, a proper brick oven for baking, and a basin in the back with a cleverly designed release that allows used water to flow out into the yard. The ceilings are lower here than in the common room, as above the kitchen are the staff quarters and above those is the office. In the corner is a double flight of stairs, one leading upwards and the other downwards to the cellar. Between this wing and the eastern one, where most of the guest rooms are, is a lavishly simple courtyard. Coming from the common area, the first thing to notice is the non-functioning fountain. Its circular stone base leads the eye to a gloriously detailed crow, which is, believe it or not, green with moss and sitting atop the fountain. Bits of the same moss are scattered here and there among the bricks of the courtyard and up the walls of either wing. More tables are here in the courtyard, though they are all of stone, same as the porch on the other side. A fireplace on either side, shared inside the inn and outside in the courtyard, a standing bar in the middle. Ghostly lanterns are strung all from wing to wing, and I have yet to see how these are lit. Perhaps Furrier can make himself even taller somehow. These lanterns inexorably highlight the skyway connecting the 3rd floor of the guest rooms to the office of the west wing. It is not covered, and so, I imagine, a real nuisance to use when the weather turns. Finally comes the eastern wing. Entering through the sister door across the courtyard, lands one in a generous parlour containing a few square oak tables around the shared fireplace. There is a bench against the wall, and under a small painting of a duck. Curious. There is a bent staircase that will take a guest from this parlour up to their room, should they be staying anywhere besides the ground floor. And that is all. The Green Crow, our home and home to those wayward souls blown in by the cold, unforgiving wilds. Especially mysterious ones with fabulous cloaks. This has been The Green Crow Inn by Derek A. Kamal, read by Calman Friedman, with music by Michael Elliott. To find out more, including how to purchase your copy of the novel, please visit shorelessskies.com.